Hey, how's it going, everybody? Philip at Trade Genius. Hope you guys had a good week. In this video, I wanted to talk about just some of the recent developments as far as large players accumulating Bitcoin and go over the purchases made by MicroStrategy, by Square, talk about Grayscale's current situation with the amount that they manage. And then I wanted to also talk about this chart, the M3 chart for the United States dollar. So I think you guys will find this video very interesting. So let's dive into it.
Trade Genius.
Guys, really quickly, we have our specials running. Our starter bundle, $3.99, gets you into the room with us. You'll be able to interact with both Bob and I on everything that we trade, stocks, cryptos, binary options. That's $3.99. All of these are for 12 months, so very, very economical. We also have educational course packages, and then we also have some of the more in-depth packages that have our powerful suite of indicators in them. Really powerful stuff. We show you how to use them. Even the starter package has a multi-series training course on how to use the ribbon indicator. So I think you guys will find that very interesting and see the various avenues that you can take to make a side income or primary income every day from the market. All right, let's dive into this video. So what we've been seeing lately is a couple of main headlines of large crypto purchases, starting with the Business Intelligence. You guys probably have heard about this by now. They bought 21,000 Bitcoin for $250 million. Now, they're a business intelligence firm. Okay, these guys, I mean, essentially, they're looking at market data. They're looking at where are the best advantages, as far as upcoming cycles and things like that. So for the fact that they decided to invest that much money into a long-term Bitcoin position should tell you something. Okay, these guys are looking at a lot of data points. Again, their move reflects the belief in Bitcoin. So I think they see, as we've been talking about, Bitcoin is going to be a great hedge in the current environment that we're in, and is going to be perpetuated, I think, because of just the way that now the economy has been and the way the central banks have been dealing with it. It's just going to be a continuous cycle of money printing, which we're going to get to. So, there's one example. Another example is Square most recently bought $50 million in Bitcoin as part of a larger investment into cryptocurrency. So they bought 4,709. Jack Dorsey, who is the CEO of Twitter, he's been a big proponent of Bitcoin. He thinks it would be the currency of the internet and possibly even the sole currency for the planet at some point. Obviously that's speculative, but again, these guys are seeing that Bitcoin is moving from this real speculative play more into mainstream now, and we really haven't even tapped into its potential yet, outside of its primary purpose right now as just being a gold 2.0 asset. Grayscale, which is the GBTC fund, it's really the only way that you can gain exposure to your stock portfolios with Bitcoin, because they kind of act like an ETF, even though technically they are not. But you're able to buy shares into it, which represent 0.0009 and a half BTC. Okay, and that they are growing by leaps and bounds. Just toward the end of September, they had accumulated 17,000 more BTC, and now they hold over 450,000 BTC. So you can see a large amount of money, all right, flowing into Bitcoin and gobbling it up. And keep in mind, the amount of Bitcoin produced every day is 900. And that's when you're talking about a global scale, that's really nothing. Okay, so it doesn't take a lot of institutional flows to start gobbling up the daily output production of Bitcoin, and it's unable to keep up. And so you're going to have essentially what you'll start to see at some point is actually the overall availability of Bitcoin available for sale starts to dry up. And when that mechanism kicks in, you're really going to start to see the cyclical nature of the halving cycles kick in. And we'll look at that cycle chart in a minute just to see where we are compared to the previous price cycle from the last halving. And you'll see that Bitcoin's actually trading at a discount right now. The other thing I wanted to show you guys was the M3 chart. Now this is basically there's M1, M2, and M3. It's different ways to look at the money supply. M1 is looking at money supply and circulation plus like checking accounts, what are in checking accounts. M2 looks at savings accounts under 100,000. M3 is your largest look with even institutional sized assets. And as you can see, since our recession, these gray bars are recessions. They basically calling the start of this recession back in February, March, and look what they did to the money supply, just spiked it, right? So this goes along with central bank balance sheets expanding, and I think what, like we've been talking about, you got to hedge against inflation. And if you've looked at your food bill compared it to last year or even 2 years ago, I think we all can agree that's much higher. And those are the things that when you're into this activity where you're forced to stimulate the economy because the core economy just isn't getting it done, and especially now with the coronavirus shutdowns and things like that, it's really a lot of the parts of the economy have just been permanently damaged. A lot of small businesses are permanently damaged. I think that has a larger effect than many people want to admit to. But this is not going to stop, guys. This is just not going to stop. The economy has been set back a couple of years at least. And now we're in this stimulus cycle, right? So every time we run out of the stimulus funding runs its course, we're going to do it again. And forget the deficit. Like, at this point, it's pointless. I think we're going into a mindset with the central banks and politicians that the deficit is just something that we don't really have to worry about. It's okay to grow it indefinitely. At some point, that breaks, but they're just, we're in a world of kicking the can down the road. So knowing this, you want to hedge against inflation, right? So you need hard assets. Real estate is one, but Bitcoin, because of its finite nature, is going to see probably the most explosive growth out of any hard asset. So now you're seeing big money, you're seeing smart money pile into Bitcoin, and you really have to take notice of that. And if you haven't started already, it's not too late. You can buy fractions of Bitcoin. You can just, chip away at it. If you have already, great, hold on to them. But the point being is that this party is just getting started, and Bitcoin's next boom is going to be jaw-dropping. Now, let's look at, last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is the cycle chart. Okay, so what this is here, guys, is we go and you measure from the last all-time high, and you look at where price is compared to how price, if we were to repeat the last cycle, the green would be where we would expect price to be. And at the end of the cycle, we're looking at an all-time high of $436,000+, because last time on the cycle, we went from sub 1,000 and peaked out up just about $20,000. So it's looking at the same type of movements, but starting from a higher price point and repeating the cycle. If you look at where we are now, we're at, we just recently popped over 11,000, and by the previous cycle, we'd actually be expected to be up at 17,000. So it's lagging a bit. I think the large part of that lag is because of this dump that we had here when the coronavirus situation hit. That's back here. Coronavirus hits in March, and otherwise I think we would have been on this trajectory and probably closer to where price was up here. So Bitcoin should catch up to this line. This current moving average, which is the projected 200-day moving average, has actually been a bit of a lid for the price of Bitcoin. So this next cycle push up, we'd actually be targeting about 14,000, taking out the prior highs. But as you guys can see, very bullish part of the cycle here has begun. And if we look at the things like the most recent technical stuff, this is the forward-looking futures. Obviously, people are, whenever we get these types of moves, it's a good bull move. We can buy a dip here soon, probably back towards 11,100. On the weekly, it's a buy. On the daily, breaking out as a buy, as you can see here, popping up to 11,400, and 4 hour has broken out into a buy. So that's why I'm saying we're most likely going to be heading toward that 14,000 mark, and we are still tied to the stock market. If you look at this, is the 4 hour chart going back to May, and as you can see, market came up. Blue line is the stock market, and Bitcoin actually led the pullback on this last leg down and pulled back, but they are ebbing and flowing pretty much the same. So they both stopped going down right about here, and then it has been making a series of higher lows since then. Right now, we're peaking out into the stock market, probably going to be eyeballing these prior highs, which means Bitcoin's going to be eyeballing these prior highs, and we'll see if we break out. But we may see one last pretty strong move into the election, and then we're probably going to see some people taking a more defensive stand as we get election results and figure out where we're going to be going politically in the next 4 years. But these types of moves you really don't want to ignore. This is a buy the dip type of move right here. And from a more macro perspective, if you look at like a weekly chart, you can see that when we come off of our blow off tops, we come back in. Look at this moving average, for example, dip under it, right? Come back up, period of flat here, and then we take off. And we did that dip under, come back up. I think this is your equivalent of that period of flat. Okay, this is just typical halving cycle stuff. This was the China pump and dump scheme that pumped away from the cycle mean, comes back to it, and then you're getting this lift here and this lift here. Prices come back to it, prices come back to it, and then I think now you're going to see the steady grind higher. And this is the part where I think is going to be life-changing for a lot of people on this next run-up. Okay, so very exciting. Just periodically just want to give you guys a macro look and just reassure you guys that we're now moving from the speculative phase on Bitcoin to more of the mainstream phase. This is where the early adopters that were getting in early and been hodling all these years are really going to start to get paid over the next 12 to 24 months. So exciting stuff. Again, if you're interested in joining us in the room, head over to tradegenius.co. Check out our bundles, very economical yearly packages, and look forward to seeing you in the room. All right, guys, take care. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Trade Genius.